I've just covered the entire roadmap end to end for guaranteed financial freedom. And if you follow the steps that I'm going to map out for you in this video, this is going to be the most important video on how to achieve financial freedom that you ever watch. No rubbish, no fluffy hype things, just a step-by-step plan. I'm going to map it all out in front of your eyes, and this is going to be your Bible video of becoming financially free. So make sure you save this video. You're going to want to watch it a couple of times probably. Let's get stuck in. Alright, so I'm going to draw the whole thing out here, so you're going to want to follow along, you want to take notes, and you definitely want to save this video because there's going to be a lot to take in. And the first place I'm going to start is we're going to talk about what happens with your income. Okay, so most people, this represents your bank account or your personal bank account, okay, where every month or every week you get paid into this account, okay, and this is going to represent your income, and I'm going to call this effort income, okay, where you have to go and show up someplace, or you have to exchange your time for money, or you're going to be paid on effort, right? And you're getting money, and maybe you have to go somewhere, maybe you have to exchange your time and geographical location, and you have to put in some effort, exert energy, and you get paid. Okay, now most people they have one bank account, and every time they get paid, the money comes into this bank account each month, right? And we want to start filling this bank account up, right? And usually what happens is at the end of the month, all of this is gone. You know, it's depleted. And the reason it's depleted is because there's a big crack in this bucket that spews out over the side into your expenses, your living costs, and you don't really know where that's going. It can be on things like your house, your car, food going out, luxury items, all that kind of stuff, memberships, subscriptions. And that's the first step, okay? Because if we're going to build financial freedom, the first thing we have to do is control our income that we've got right now, okay? It's not about moving into a new income stream straight away. It's about actually optimizing the income we have. And that's a lot boring for a lot of people, but the first thing you're going to want to do is kind of just put a tap on this income, right? So you're going to want to put a little tap on here, and you're going to want to control this income or this allocation of your income to those expenses. You're going to want to work out what those expenses are. So this is going to be your expenses, right? And every time you get paid, you're going to want a portion of that money to come into here, fill up your expenses bucket enough to then go and serve your expenses, right? So we're going to have another little tap here that then goes out on things like your house, right? So you're going to have your house, and you're going to have a car, right? And you're going to have, let's just say, your luxury item. Maybe you have a watch, and food is a burger. Right? Don't eat burgers. They're not good for you. But what you're doing really is you're understanding where this money is going. All right. And you've got full control over that. Now, before we go on to how you should allocate the rest of your income, I want to talk a little bit about this, because this is going to be, a lot of people can become much more financially stable just from getting a grip on what they're doing here. And what I mean here is, how you tighten these things up and how you actually go about doing that in the first place. So what I'm going to talk you through quickly is when it comes to expenses, I have a process called the 3 I's, right? And the 3 I's stands for recognize, prioritize, and optimize. Right? So the first step is to recognize your spending. And what that means is you go through all of your bank statements, and you want to average that out over the last 12 months. Okay, so 12 months. Go through all of the statements, all of your expenses, all of your spending, and you want to get 12 months because that's going to allow you to capture those one-offs, right? Things like the vet bill, or the car breakdown, or the MOT, or the annual things that you do that you won't capture on a month-by-month basis necessarily. And what we're looking for here are a couple of things. One is debt. Okay, so your debt is going to be every time you look at a debt payment, you're going to add that to a column, or you're going to make a note of that, and you're going to add it up in your DTI ratio, which I'll take care of in a minute. And the second thing you're looking at is any hotspots. Okay, so hotspots are things that you notice in that spending that you think, wow, that's a lot more than I thought it was. You know, maybe you're paying the gardener, or maybe cups of coffee. You know, if you spend a £5 per coffee, sometimes you can realize you're spending like $90, $80, $90, $100, £100 a month on just coffee. And you think, wow, I didn't realize it was that much, you know, and those are going to be hotspots. And you're just going to make a note of them. And what I would recommend you do is you go about your day every day for the next month, and just spend, but keep a track of what you're spending. You can use different spending trackers out there, but you just want to, don't change the way you are. Don't do it deliberately because you know you're tracking it, but instead just go through the process and pretend you're living your life and start tracking how you're spending your money, right? So once we've recognized these things, and of course the next one is debt, by the way. So let me just talk to you a little bit about DTI. So there's a formula for DTI, which stands for debt to income ratio, and it is your monthly debt payments, okay, divided by your gross monthly income, and you want to multiply that by 100, okay? And what you'll do, if you do that formula, you'll get a percentage, right? And that percentage is going to be very closely correlated to your mental well-being. In fact, the word wealth comes from an old English word, wele, which means well-being. So if you're snappy with your kids, or you can't sleep very well, or you've got bad relationships, or you just feel groggy, the chances are this will be linked to your DTI. And what it measures is how much of your income you earn just to repay debt. Okay. Now in Australia, they pay like 200% of their income to debt. In Denmark, they pay like nearly 300% of their income to debt now, which is crazy. But here's what I recommend. Do this formula. So your monthly debt payments, add them all up. What do they come to that goes to debt? And don't include your mortgage in this, because we will have to live somewhere. But any other high interest debts, right? Anything with high APR over, over 9%, say, or any other store cards, IOUs, credit cards, loans, all that kind of stuff, right? Add it all up, divide it by your gross monthly income, and multiply it by 100. And here's the key. You want to get that below 10, because below 10% is considered excellent, right? 10 to 20% is still very good. Okay. Once you get into the 20 to 50% or 20-60% ish, that's where you start to feel a little bit stretched. That's where you're kind of keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of thing. And you sometimes realize that you've got expenses that aren't that important to you. That's where you're going to want to really get to grips with that and check yourself, And then anything 50% to 100%, that's where you can feel really, really stressed. You're basically, 100%, you're a slave to the bank, meaning every effort income that you go and earn, you're paying to the bank, which is a crazy, crazy place to be, right? So those are the 3 I's: recognize, prioritize, optimize. You're looking for hotspots and DTI. And then what you're going to do is, so you've recognized your spending. Now what you're going to do is prioritize savings. Okay, and there's a couple of matrices that I run people through for prioritizing saving. And that is the first matrix, which looks like this. It's basically a little Eisenhower matrix. If you imagine a little, axis down the middle, horizontal and vertical, and there's 2 of them. And what I'm going to draw on these is I'm going to do a plus, minus, plus, and this is going to be minus, minus, this is going to be a minus. The first matrix is going to be how critical the thing is, the thing that you're paying out for, versus how valued it is. Okay, so if you highly value something, but it's not critical, things like maybe you go out once for a family meal and that's where the time that you all get together and you really value it, it's sentimental maybe. Maybe you go out to watch a film or something like that. Maybe there's a certain ritual you and your family do and it's highly valued in your family, but it's not critical. Then those are things that you're going to be basically looking to maybe reduce. Okay, so that's going to be, if it's highly valued but not critical, you're going to see if you can reduce it down. If it's highly valued and highly critical, right, things like life insurance, right, where you value it highly, you've got, it's critical that you do it, that's going to be stuff that you keep. So those expenses you're just not even going to bother with. Maybe you negotiate different deals and things like that. If it's critical but not valued, that's where you're going to try and, maybe delegate it, automate it, negotiate it, bring it down a little bit. Those are things that you can work on doing there. And then obviously, if it's not valued and not critical, you just want to get rid of it straight away. Just get rid of that thing immediately, delete it down, get rid, cancel it off at the next possible opportunity whenever that renewal comes up or whatever, right? So that's the first process that you take it through. And by the way, all of these savings that you make, you just want to add them to the side. Pretend you're still spending them. Add them to a little pot of bonus money that you've just now, new income that you've just generated. Now, the next matrix that I want to take you through is the amount you can save, so the quantity of saving over how complex it would be to make the saving. Okay, so if something's really complex, let's just say that you have to go all the way, walk, drive out to the high street bank, go into the bank, you have to park your car, pay for parking, walk a mile, go into the bank, put up with all that, and then you just make a tiny saving. That's going to be something that's probably going to be not worth doing, right? It's good. You want to do that last. So in other words, if something is the greatest complexity but has the minimal saving, you want to do that last in this case. Okay. Now, if there's something where it's really not complex and you just go online and you log in and you just, make a massive saving, right? Maybe you cancel something down or you just change supplier and it's really, really easy. Obviously, you want to do that first, okay? And then if something's not that very complex to do, but you can, and you can make, okay savings, okay? Well, then you want to do that second. And then obviously you want to do the greatest saving, greatest complexity third, right? So hope that makes sense. Those are the prioritize sections of your spending, your living expenses, getting control over those. Now, how do we optimize? Well, how you optimize is everything that you've saved from here, you're then going to invest in assets. Okay, so think about it. Now we've got this tap on here. Well, when there's less coming out here, this starts to fill up. Or backfill, right? This one starts to backfill, okay? And we get more buffer room in here. Ideally, 3 to 6 months living costs, okay? So once you've got 3 to 6 months living costs in here, that's ideal, okay? And then what we want to do is everything from that point, we want to pretend we're still paying out for all this stuff, but now we're not. We're going to invest it into assets, which assets are the only thing that are going to get you to financial freedom. And just to take you through what I'm going to be looking at here is going to be assets, right? So you can spell that out, and easy way to remember this whole process is going to help you achieve financial freedom is you're going to audit your numbers. Now, I've just taken you through a bit of that where you're auditing these numbers. You're getting close to your money. You're logging in, you're looking at your bank statements, you're looking at your bank, the balance. If you look at your balance every day, it's very hard for that thing not to go up because your effort and energy, we grow what we focus on, right? So auditing numbers. There's also some other numbers that I'm going to talk you through in a moment. But the next thing is simplify lifestyle, right? A lot of people think they want loads of things, but a lot of that is to show off. It's status symbols. And actually what we really want, and what I've realized a lot of people who I've witnessed do phenomenally well in business, make lots and lots of money, they end up getting rid of lots of the stuff, right? Because they realize happiness isn't about that. Happiness isn't about that. And you know, if you look at lockdown, for instance, everyone was locked in their homes. They reduced their living costs. They got rid of all the things that they didn't need. The second car. There was no showing off. There was no keeping up with the Joneses, and people were happier than they've ever been, by being locked in their house. It says a lot about a simple lifestyle, right? The next one is scale leveraged income, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. The next one is expand investments, right? And the last one is track and tweak. And this is going to be something you do consistently and constantly to achieve and maintain financial freedom. So where does it go? Well, where does it go? We're going to buy some assets. Okay. So first things first, we're going to have another tap here, right? And this tap is going to kind of have a little lever on it because it's going to divert two ways, right? And it's going to go into two more buckets, right? So here's the two more buckets, and they're both assets. They're going to be both assets. The first one is going to be your mind, self-development. All right. Now, why would you invest into self-development? Well, there's a great quote. When you empty your pockets into your mind will fill your pockets. So if we put some money into self-development, and you might know Alex Hormozi. Alex Hormozi says you want to invest 100% of your expenses into self-development, into education. And the reason being is because the ROI, the return on investment, is always double, triple in the long run, right? So it's worth doing that. I recommend 10% of your income, which you may have just optimized from here. It might be, you might have gained 10% from optimizing your expenses. You put that into your self-development, and you want to basically look for courses, books, programs, mentorship, coaches, Audible memberships. Just learn, and you allocate that income to that, because what that does is it then has this kind of effect here where it will make you more efficient at your job. It will learn you how to do more strategies in your job. You'll learn how to make more money, and basically the whole thing starts to have this effect where it filters back through onto your income up here, and it can start to free up your time. Maybe your effort reduces. Maybe the effort reduces. Maybe you become more aware of how to be more efficient with your time, how to do things quicker. But my focus, you know, mobility freedom, which really is down to a lot of this, because a lot of people are great at making money, right? A lot of business owners are great at making money, but every month they've got to make the money. They don't have any more time. They don't have any more freedom. And when I look at their calendar, it is packed. It is chock-a-block with showing up, doing calls, doing different things, actually things that feel like work, and they still resentful, even though they're, you know, developing and making loads of money. So the things that I would focus on here is when you start to build a business, really what we're looking for is, in order to have a calendar that we are inspired by and things that we love doing that don't feel like work, we need to first make sure that we're only doing things that we're inspired to do, and we want to basically delegate everything else. But also, you want to be aware of how you're building these businesses, because if this is time and this is space, what you want to do is, instead of just shooting for passive income, which obviously that is a thing. So let's just say this is passive and this is mobile, right? There'll be certain things where, like a restaurant, you'll have to show up. So it won't be, it will take a lot of your time for starters, and it will be non-mobile. You have to show up to a specific geographical location, exchange your time for money in that period of time. It's only open a certain period of time. There's only a certain amount of seats, only a certain amount of people you can serve. There's only a certain amount of leads because people have to walk past the door. It's very inefficient way of doing business. And unless you really, really love getting your hands dirty in a restaurant every single day, which is very unlikely, that's probably not a wise thing to do. Okay. Now, if you manage to run the business in a way where you are focused on time and space, meaning you delegate, okay, so that you can So your systems, which are assets, okay, automations, through software and things like that, delegations, through team. If you don't master these things, you'll never have mobility freedom. You'll never be free. And what happens is you chase financial freedom because you're resentful of the position you're in. But actually, because you're in that resentful position, you're now trying to escape, which money avoids desperation. So you've got less chances of getting financial freedom if you're not doing this and you're just trying to escape a busy life. So you must nail this first. It's much easier to optimize your current life than it is to achieve financial freedom. But once you do this, the run to financial freedom becomes very, very quick. Okay? You have to trust me on this one. So when you're building businesses, first of all, try and make them mobile. Try and ask yourself, how many places am I limited on earth from doing this? How many people am I limited to serve on earth? And then the next question is, how much of my time is this going to require? And the bits that do require my time, how inspired am I to do that particular task? And if the answer's not very on that, then you want to systems, automations, delegate it to someone who is better than you or is inspired to do those things. Okay, low value tasks. This is where business owners never achieve mobility freedom. Okay, now let's talk about other assets. Okay, so if we look down here, so we're spending 10% of our income on self-development all the time. And guess what? As your money grows, as you have these ideas and let's just say you spend 50 grand or 20 grand or 10 grand or 5 grand or £1,000 on self-development, and then that generates you some more income, guess what? This goes up, your effort goes down, and the whole thing starts to ramp up, right? So let's keep going here, right? So what do we do with the next one? Where's this going to go? This is going to go into assets. Okay, so we've spoken a little bit about assets of the mind, assets that you create. This is going to be our freedom assets. So this is financial freedom assets. And I recommend, so first of all, you're going to be, going into self-development and assets. And then at the bottom of this one, this is going to actually split out into two as well. And on here, there's going to be like a lever. And below there is going to be a couple of more buckets. The first bucket is going to be your investing. This is going to be things like passive investments, stocks and things like that. And then this is going to be speculation or trading. Okay. Now, this isn't this isn't compulsory, the trading. In fact, this lever that I've drawn here, 100% of this could go into here. You could start doing 100% into investments. You might put the lever all this way and everything goes into investments. And a lot of people do that. And it's impossible not to become financially free when you do that. But some people like to ramp the time it takes up to get to financial freedom. And they like to learn to trade and ramp up their accelerations, right? So what I would recommend if that's you or you're new to that, something like a 90-10 split into investments and trading. And if you get really good, maybe you do 80-20 or 70-30, but you want to earn your right to this risk. You want to learn how, you're going to have to learn how to trade using your self-development. Okay, so you invest into your mind, teaches you how to unlock these different buckets. You're going to have to invest in your mind to learn how to do this as well, right? So without investing into your mind, you're not going to be able to spend any of this on assets, which means it will just stagnate. It will just grow into here, get stuck into here. And yes, you'll be accumulating some liquidity, right, which you could potentially pull out and spend, and maybe it's growing at a 1%, 2% if you're lucky, a bank interest rate. But what we want to do is we want to increase this and really start to ramp this up, right? So we're going to go into investments. Now, first of all, the most passive way, imagine we're going to be investing in a very passive way here. So imagine this is going to be passive, right? Then we're going to have semi-passive, and then we're going to have pure speculation up the top, right? Now, the first thing, as you've probably heard me talk about before, things like index funds. Anyone can go and automate this into an index fund, and the market's just doing this and this and this, and it's going up and up and up. And every time we go up in the into the green, you're buying. Every time you go up into the green, you're buying every single month. Benjamin Graham says, buy your stocks like groceries, not perfume, which means every week, every month, you buy the same thing over and over and over and over again. Every time it goes down, you buy, right? So you just continuously buy. And by doing that, minimum you're going to get is 10% per year over a long period of time. The stock market has done 10 to 12% for the longest since inception. And anyone can do that, right? And that can be automated. This can be set up within an hour, and you never have to check it ever again. You just set up the standing order and job done. Okay. Now, once you start to get money going into that, what happens to it? Well, you're going to want to compound both of these, actually. So what that looks like is you have this kind of mechanism here where anything coming from here starts to compound. Okay, so this fills up. You've got maybe 3 to 6 months living costs in here now, and this starts to compound. Now, compounding interest is incredible, and it's the most underused or underappreciated thing in the world, in my opinion. So you're investing. This is compounding, and when you get motivation by seeing that grow so quick, what you might do is you might start to ramp this up a little bit and put more into your investments, because you're getting the confidence to do so. You're earning your right to higher degrees of risk instead of just these inconsistent, I might put a big lump in now. You actually want to ramp this thing up because you're seeing the impact it's having, right? Which is great, amazing. But then what you might want to do is you might want to open this a little bit and ramp this up even more. So you put a little bit of money in here to trade. And again, you just let that compound, because the whole time you're able to be healthy and fit, and you're optimizing your job. So you're enjoying your job more, you're enjoying your work more, you're earning more money. You don't need to stop. If you can just achieve freedom by doing what you love, right? Being who you want to be and doing what you love, so it doesn't feel like work, and you're being paid to have the experiences and lifestyle costs that are meaningful to you, because most people spend money on stuff that isn't meaningful to them, which is why they're resentful. Okay. And then they're on this hamster wheel to try and please and appease and look good in front of other people. If you're doing things that you love that doesn't feel like work, and you've delegated everything else out, and you're being paid enough to cover the things that are truly meaningful to you because you've been through this value critical thing, okay, at that point you feel free. The only reason you want financial freedom after that is if you need to stop. And financial freedom only comes from assets, and it's the amount of time that you can buy into the future should you need to stop. So let me just quickly go through that before I talk a little bit more about this trading thing. I want you to write this formula down. It is LA, LE, LI. Okay, what LA stands for is liquid assets, liquidity. So this is LA, the money in here, right? So this is LA. This is LA. This is liquid assets, things that you've got that you could just withdraw straight away. This is LA, okay? So liquidity. That's the first part of the formula. Lifestyle expenses or living expenses is here, okay? So this is LE. This is how much your lifestyle expenses are. And then leveraged income is going to be income that comes in that doesn't require your time or space. So there's going to be a little bit of that here because you've optimized your mobility freedom and you've optimized your passivity, your time freedom. But where that really kicks in, and by the way, this is the formula. If you do this formula, it will tell you how much time you can buy, okay, into the future. So if you've got 5,000 in the bank, right, and your lifestyle costs are 2,000 a month, and you've got no leveraged income streams, then 5,000 divided by 2,000 is going to be 2.5, okay, right? So 5,000 divided by 2,000 is 2.5. Now, if you start to bring in money from your leveraged income streams, the more you increase this, the more this increases, okay? So if let's just say that you're bringing in 1,000 1999 in leveraged income, 1999, this number will be 416 years. Okay? So notice none of these numbers are massive. Right? It's very, very simple to do. It's just people just don't do it. How many things do you know that are so simple but no one does it? And they say, if it's that easy, why don't everyone do it? Well, I don't know. You tell me. You tell me, because it is that simple. I promise you, it is that simple. And the key with this is about buying time. If you do this formula yourself, most people can live into the future for a month. Okay, so you want to give yourself a 1 score if that's you. And that means that if you do this formula and you realize that you can only buy a month into the future, not only are you basically normal, that's what most people can do, but also that's the time you've got to buy into the future before you have to radically change your lifestyle to meet demands. Okay, now if you're 1 to 6 months, give yourself say 2 to 5 points, depending on 1 to 6. If you are 6 to 12 months, by the way, if you're following along in the comments, let me know how many months you can buy in the comments. I'd love to know if you're still watching somehow. Let me know you're still watching in the comments at least. But also open up, let the community know here where you're at, because we're all working on this together. This whole channel is not built for, it's built to help people become financially free and free in their lives. Okay, to live a life they're inspired by. That's what we want to do. Okay, and then if you can buy more than 12 months, you want to give yourself a 10. That's a 10 out of 10. And that's the goal. 10 months, the more time you can buy into the future, the better. But remember, it's only one piece. This whole financial freedom piece is one piece of the puzzle. All right. So now let's finally talk about what happens when we need financial freedom. Well, there's a little tap here. Okay. And this is another lever. And we're letting this compound, and then eventually, or part-time, or at some point, right, you're going to want to open this. You want to open this tap, or pull this lever, to allow this income to flow up here, which is pure, remember what I said? This is pure leveraged income. Doesn't require time or space. If you're swing trading, it might require a little bit of time, but you've got maximum mobility. If you're just passive investing, or maybe you're buying stocks and things like that, which you can work your way up, you can earn higher degrees of risk the more time you have and the more you invest in your mind. And you might start by buying index funds, and then you might start buying real estate investment trusts, and then large cap stocks, medium cap stocks. Maybe you go into some angel investments. Maybe you start picking up a skill like trading or property or whatever it might be, and you start to build up your skill, which means you move this lever here to allocate more to this, the more confident you become in the skill, in the speculation. Make sense? I hope so. I hope that does. So first of all, you want to start with about 10% into assets, and then you want to increase this lever up every 3 months. Okay, and what you're doing is you're pushing the rest back into your expenses. Always 10% on your self-development, and then start at 10% here, then 3 months later up it by 10% if you can, go to 11%, and then the next month up it again, go to 12.1%, and so on and so on and so on. And down here, what you're really looking to do is you're looking to get between 10 and 18%, maybe 20% on your investments, from index funds up to maybe a bit of stock picking, usually more if you can use tools like Forecaster, which is amazing, and I've done loads of videos on Forecaster, which I'll put in the description and put here. Incredible AI tools for investing. You can go and watch all those videos. You do that, you can start making way more than 20% a year. I did 76% on my investments the first time I used this tool. So go and check that out. But here's the point. You want to really realistically minimum 10 to 18% on investments. The amount of effort required and time required is going to be not resentful at that point. When you learn to trade, a lot of people say, you know, is it worth me learning to trade? Really, you don't want to learn to trade unless you're looking to get at least 25 to 60% per year, per annum. Because usually for most people, I mean, that's good for everyone, right? Because what else do you do with your money? It's a great return. But not everyone wants to trade or is interested in it or should trade. Okay, so when people ask me, I say, well, if you could make 25 to 60% a year, would it be worth it? Some people say, well, I think so. And then they start to learn and they go, do you know what? It's not worth it. I don't really like it that much. I'm not that interested. I'm just doing it because I saw someone else doing it. But other people, they're like, this is incredible. I love trading. I love the markets. I'm fascinated by it. And yes, 25, and they end up getting way more than 25, 30, 40, 50, 60% because they love it. They enjoy it and they're enjoying the process. One unrealistic expectation which you need to focus on when you go into trading is what we're looking for is your strike rate. So this is 100%. This is the amount of times you're right. This is 50%. This is 0%. When you're trading, you're not right all the time. Okay, that's the first thing you need to learn. So you're not right all the time. And you're also going to have a reward to risk ratio. Okay, so it might be a 0.5 to 1, and then you might have a 1 to 1, and then you might have say a 2 to 1 and a 3 to 1, and so on and so on. And each of these things, you know, the higher the strike rate, really, the less you need to have a great reward to risk ratio. And the greater the reward to risk ratio, the less you have to be right. Okay, and that's something that a lot of traders neglect to figure out. Where your sweet spot is going to be somewhere in here. You're going to be right about 55% of the time, and you got 1 to 1.2, 1.5, maybe a 2 to 1 strategy. That's the sweet spot of traders. And the reason traders don't succeed is because they chase 100% strike rate or these massive 10 to 1 swings because they're greedy, and then they miss out on consistent returns right here in the middle, which makes you win over time. Okay, so in a nutshell, if you build this, what happens is this then becomes your income, at which point you can shut off your effort income. You don't need that anymore because you've got income coming in from here, which doesn't feel like work. You could even shut that off if this gets big enough and you get good enough at this, but you can do it all because you've built it the right way. Which leads me to the last point in this video, is there are 3 freedoms. Okay, what I've been over right now is money. Okay, because you can be free in money. Financial freedom, that's what you get from building this. You only get it from assets, okay? And that's how you're going to get financial freedom. Your mobility freedom or movement freedom, move, okay? That's what you're going to get by not just how much money you earn, but how you spend your time, all right? Because you could achieve financial freedom and you're still told what to do with your money, right? You might just on paper get to the point where you're financially free and you're still told what to do. So you don't actually appreciate the fact that you're financially free. And then lastly is mind freedom, mental freedom. I can tell you that if you are not mentally free, you'll never be free. You'll never be financially free. You'll be lost. It doesn't matter how much money you earn. If you've got no purpose, no sense of direction, no meaning, no direction at all, you'll never be free. And even if someone gives you a lottery ticket and you win the lottery, you'll be told how to spend your money. You'll have guilt, shame, regret. You'll try and buy friends. You'll try and repel that money as quickly as possible until you're not financially free anymore. So what I've been over is a bit about movement freedom, mobility freedom, and how to feel free by optimizing your time and space. I've gone over money freedom, which is financial freedom, which is all of this stuff, right? And what to do with your money to definitely achieve financial freedom. The one thing I haven't been over is mind freedom. And that is a big topic. And this is the reason most people never become free. If you want me to do a whole video dedicated to mental freedom, let me know in the comments, type mental freedom, and I'll produce what I believe to be the most important video on freedom that there is out there. So I hope this has been valuable. Go and set some of this stuff up. If you've got any questions on this, let me know in the comments. And until next time, go and grab a copy of my book where I explain all of this in detail and give you all of the strategies and everything in here. I'll put the link for this in the description. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you then.